Hello everyone, this is my SGDQ 2018 submission video for Rise of the Triad Dark War. I am doing it in this format because there's a lot of RNG in this game and I will have to play it safe on certain levels. So submitting my PB wouldn't necessarily be an accurate video as to what this run would be like in a marathon setting. And I will try my best to explain all the things in this game that, require this kind of thing. All the RNG elements and such. I'm playing as Lorelei because she's the fastest. She also has the lowest health out of all the 5 characters. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it. So, since episode 1 doesn't have a ton of sequence breaking going on, it's a good time to explain the mechanics of this game. I mentioned there's a lot of RNG. Other than enemy movements and behaviors, the biggest element of RNG in this game is the enemy spawns, because where an enemy can spawn and how many enemies spawn and what types of enemy spawns can be random. There are certain areas in the game where you're going to get a set spawn every time, but for the most part there's a lot of sections where that's not the case. We're blowing ourselves up here just to get full health again. We don't have anything important yet, so it's easy to just die there to get health back. There's also a lot of power-ups. This is Mercury mode. This lets us fly. This is useful for just getting through part of this level. But in the first 2 levels, you'll be introduced to enemies you'll see throughout most of the game, which are the white enemies, which are the light guards. They don't really do a whole lot. You have the lightning guards, which can steal weapons and armor, and you also have the high guards, which have machine guns and they're annoying. I'm also a dog, by the way. That's another thing in this game. Like I said, there's power-ups and they can be a bit ridiculous, which is fine. Dog mode's great because, for one, like a dog, you don't take any damage from bullets, fire, or anything like that. You're immune to damage. And the other thing about dog mode in this game is you can jump. And this can be done with, and it's both an attack and the use key. So you can do both of those and it will stack 2 jumps on top of each other and allow you to jump a little higher. This is going to be useful for level navigation as well as just getting over enemies really easily. It's kind of a nifty little mechanic. I like to refer to it as the puppy jump. Right, so this, like I said, a lot of these levels in episode 1 are pretty straightforward. A lot of the sequence breaks don't start happening until the next episode. But like I said, this is a good chance to explain the mechanics of the game. Oh yeah, that's a literal wall of lava, by the way. There are a lot of traps to dodge in this game, and they do a lot of damage. So one of the highest risks of dying is just those kinds of things, so you gotta be very careful with your movement. This level introduces that black enemy, which is the Over Patrol. Over Patrol is annoying because they throw nets at you, and those hinder your movement. And the only way to get out of a net is through 2 means. One is to wiggle your way free, which takes forever, and the other way is to cut yourself free with a knife, which I just picked up. It's very important you get that knife as early as you can, because it'll be useful for the rest of the game, because it'll mitigate the problems that the Over Patrol can cause. I'll try best not to get hit, or hit by the net, but this is too much room. This is another room, or another level, where enemy RNG spawns can be really devastating if you're unlucky. This is a great example. I'm taking a lot of damage because of where the enemies are located and which enemies are spawning. If you get a lot of high guards there, it can be a little bit of a headache. But I managed to survive, which is nice. And we're going to move to the left here to dodge picking up a power down. There are those as well. Not all the power-ups in this game are useful. You might see an example of that here soon. Hopefully you don't, but let's go ahead and grab this. This is a random power-up. This gives you a random power-up, as the name implies. We got dog mode, which is good, but it's ideal to get god mode for this level. God mode is, as the name implies, you basically become god. This makes you incapable of taking damage like dog mode, but you also throw these fireballs which track enemies and kill every enemy in 1 hit. And it will hit multiple enemies as well. And this is going to be very useful later on in the game. It's useful for any time you do have God mode, but there's gonna be a very significant use of it later on. Alrighty. So yeah, as I've said, the enemy spawns being random kind of forces you to make decisions on the fly on which enemies you need to kill, which ones are in the way, what you can do, and if there are enemies you know are always going to be there, whether or not you should waste your time with them. So there's a lot of on-the-fly adaptation required for this game, even on the easiest difficulty. Also, I never mentioned it, but on the second map I picked up this, which is the MP40. This is very useful, because bullet weapons have infinite ammo in this game, and on top of that, this is the fastest firing bullet weapon, which is going to allow us to crowd control enemies a little better. And one little perk to easy difficulty. Hold on, I'm gonna get some health. It's a little bit low. One perk to easy difficulty is that the machine gun will basically stun lock any enemy. So that's good to have as early as you can get it. Which is why I go out of my way to get it in the second map. This is another level that's not terribly complicated. The nice thing about this map is there's health everywhere, or almost everywhere, so it's very easy to stay alive throughout this level, even if you get bad enemies like that. But as you can see there, like, I'm just making sure to just shoot these guys so they're just out of the way. They don't keep shooting me. It'll stop them from what they're doing. I don't have to worry about killing them necessarily. This guy's in the way, so I have to kill him. This guy, he can land on my head, and if enemies stand on your head, they do damage, a lot of it too. So if there is an enemy there, I always make sure to kill it. These are these kinds of things you'll think about, and when you're running this game multiple times, you'll learn about these potential things that can happen. And that adds to the strat calling you have to do. Also, I picked up bulletproof armor. There's two types of armor in this game, bulletproof and asbestos armor. Bulletproof armor, as the name implies, will prevent you from taking bullet damage. Asbestos armor is for explosives and fire. We'll get to see that a couple times later on. Alright, so we're almost out of this one. Also, I should mention this game is running on a modified Wolfenstein engine, so it's like held together with band-aids. So there is potential for things like game crashes to happen throughout the game. Hopefully that doesn't happen at all during this, but it is possible, which is one of many reasons why my estimate is pretty high compared to my PB. It's like a worst case scenario thing. Alright, and see, in this room I always want to make sure I kill a high guard if he's in the way. There's no enemies in here. Pick up this key. The whole reason we have the bazooka is to deal with this massive hallway of enemies, because as I mentioned, you know, there's all these different enemy types, but pretty much the one thing that they all share in common is that they all have hit scan attacks, and that's awful. Especially with as much open space as there is in some levels. So that hallway in particular is a great example, because you just got a bunch of them. You want to make sure to, since they're cramped together and congested, you want to kill as many as you can. That's just a safety thing. Oh, he took my armor. That's a perfect example of what the lightning guards can do. Also, this is the flame wall. This is my favorite weapon in the game. But this is like the only practical place you can use it. So I'm gonna just use this jump pad to get over here. Trigger a touch plate to get to this key, which gets us to the exit. And one thing I haven't mentioned is about elevators, which is oddly enough another element of RNG. They can sometimes play elevator music and you can lose 10 seconds. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So now we're on to the first boss fight. Every episode ends with a boss fight. This one is one of the easiest ones. The main thing is that General Darian's hiding in his little box. Those 4 buttons in there will trigger traps that can hurt us. So we have to blow up all the buttons in order for him to come out and fight us. However, there's still a chance he can do some weird stuff and get stuck on the wall, so hopefully that doesn't happen. Okay, that was not very good because I accidentally hit that lamp. The important thing is we have to be careful and we have to kill Darian before he can get out of his hole. Or too far out of his hole, because otherwise there's holes he jumps around in and it makes him impossible to hit. That wasn't the best Darian fight I've had, but for the most part, if you're careful, you can just kill him inside of that doorway. But now we're on episode 2. Episode 2 introduces 2 new enemies to the game. One of them is the Strike Patrol. In this difficulty, they're absolute pushovers. so we don't have to worry about them. The other enemy is the Triad Enforcer, which is an absolute nightmare to deal with in any map. The Triad Enforcers are the strongest Triad enemy, and not only do they just have a lot of health, but they have a machine gun hit scan attack, and they can also throw grenades, which do an insane amount of damage. So you have to be very careful in rooms where they're gonna spawn. Alright, this Great Hall is of Fire. This level's cool. You have to collect 3 different keys. You can theoretically do it in any order. The order I do it is optimized so that I get Mercury mode as early as I can. This is going to help out specifically with 2 rooms in this level. If you want to dodge that, that's Mushrooms mode. That's the most annoying power down you can get in the game. But yeah, we have Mercury mode. It's going to be very useful for a couple of these rooms like I've mentioned. First one being this room right here. Because normally we have to wait on these fire and try not to get hit by it, but we can just fly over it. And since switches are mapped basically onto the X and Y axis, and the Z axis is never taken into consideration, you can hit a switch like that from basically any height. Which makes it so you can just fly over and hit it without having to go down, which is kind of convenient. Now we're getting our 3rd key here. Alright, gotta watch out. This, like I said, literal walls of lava. Staying on them for too long can get you killed really quickly. Just gotta get our last key. Wait for the elevator. Now before we go into the final run, we do want to grab one more Mercury mode because we're about to run out. Oh, that's an enemy I've never seen be there. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, we need all 3 keys to get through all this. And we have the Mercury mode here specifically because these floors have trap holes everywhere. And those will not only slow us down, but they also take a lot of health out of us. So we'd rather just not have to deal with that because it's a massive hindrance. Alright, made it to the exit. Now we're on to the room. The room is a really cool level, casually, because this level is focused on puzzles and trap dodging. This is really weird. By the way, rocket jumping just sometimes doesn't work like that. I don't know why. But the room is all about dodging traps and solving puzzles, as I mentioned. There's no enemies on this map whatsoever. So we're going to do a small skip here with a rocket jump. This skips us having to get the first key on this map, which is kind of nifty. You gotta watch out for these. Those are very scary. Oh, wrong one. I need to get the key first, obviously. And we're gonna hit that switch to activate a push wall. I'm stuck in this one, so I gotta be careful. That was very unfortunate. That can happen sometimes on movable walls. You can just get stuck in them. Alright. But it's not that big of a deal. It's only gonna be a big deal if I take too much more damage, which I shouldn't. Alright, so we made it through the room. This room is, the level's really short if you know where everything is and you skip the first key. This level is scary at the beginning, because if you get a lot of Triad Enforcers at the beginning, you run the risk of getting hit by grenades. Like, he just threw one right there, that's kind of scary. Luckily there's bullet armor here, so you don't have to worry about the hit scan enemies for the most part. Just make sure you don't hit those traps. And we're going to rocket jump in this room to skip to the very last hallway in this level. It's quite a nice shortcut here. And we're out of here. Now we're on to Rocky Plateau. Rocky Plateau, casually, is my least favorite level in this game. And it's not that great for a speedrun either. It's very big. It's very easy to get lost. It took me like 2 hours to route this level alone, because I kept losing track of where I was. There's a lot of this map that you don't even see because there's no reason to go to it. But in order to get to the key that leads to the exit, we need to get another key, which we have to activate a couple switches to access. So this level is a lot of going out of your way to do little things, only to just get one small thing at the end. That one small thing is right there on this little table. Right. So, another thing about the traps is they can sometimes just activate in random and inconsistent patterns. Like that fire, for example. So you gotta be careful, you can't just run into it. And like there was another enemy, so I made sure to kill him before I ran into that, so I didn't want to risk getting shot at and burning from the fire at the same time. That's pretty bad. I also save in this right before this room because if I get bad enemy spawns here, this room can be a nightmare. Alright, and that Triad Enforcer always spawns there, so I always kill him with a bazooka. Yeah, most normal enemies in this game only take one bazooka shot to kill. Triad Enforcers take 2. That doesn't seem like much, but it just shows that they have a lot of health because bazooka rounds do a lot of damage. And if you have to kill them with bullets, it takes forever. Alright, so this is the last normal level of episode 2. There's a lot that can go wrong here. So it's important to save at pretty much any place where the risk of dying is even happened once. So you gotta be very careful. Alright. We want to get as few Triad Enforcers on this level as possible, because it can be really bad if you get them in unideal locations. So I will be saving a lot on this level, because it is a very, very scary map. Alright. No Triad Enforcers in this room, that's great. This is one of the worst rooms for that to happen. I'm gonna get this healing basin and this key. Once again, I'm going to save here. Also, the game started a little bit. I was worried it was going to crash. Uh-oh. So you saw me take a lot of damage there. That was because an enemy stood on my head. You don't want that to happen. Alright. Since I got past that mess, I'm going to save here. Like I said, I'm saving a lot, but it is really just because I don't want to waste time if I accidentally die. Luckily, there's a lot of health later on in the level, but that doesn't stop the areas where, like, things can get really dicey. Like that, for example, that's scary. But now we've reached a point where there's bulletproof armor, so we don't have to worry as much. The later half of this level is not nearly as bad as the beginning, which is nice. We do still have to be careful, though. Yeah, this level's a bit long, but like I said, this is one of the scarier levels in the game. Like, getting a Triad Enforcer spawning there is actually really, really bad. Because you're right next to a fireball trap. Alright, and we're out of here, thank goodness. So this is the second boss level of the game. This one actually is kind of like you actually have to finish an actual level before you get to the boss, which makes it kind of interesting. Oh, I got a lot of enemies there, that's kind of bad. We're gonna pick up this asbestos armor in case there's more Triad Enforcers, because we don't want to take damage from their grenades. That's the riskiest thing here, really. The hit scanners are a problem, but they're generally easy to deal with. But I mentioned earlier that there are random power-ups in this game, at least I believe I did. And we're gonna be utilizing that in this hidden area here. Because there's a secret wall with a room full of healing items and random power-up. And we're going to be doing the first random item power-up, random power-up farm here to get God mode, and we got it first try. That is really nice because that is very luck-based. You really can't do much other than, you know, get it first try, and now we have to get through the rest of the level with this. This may seem like it could be out of the way to do that, but there's a reason that we do go for God mode. One, it makes this level substantially easier because you don't have to worry about health or ammo, because there's a lot of enemies, as you can see. And you can deal with them easily, but the other thing is we're going to need it for the end of this level, specifically. Because as I mentioned, there is a boss fight. I got through this really fast, so that's good. No, wait a little bit. Alright, and this is the boss fight right here. And just throw a fireball and he's dead. Like I said before, fireballs from the God mode kill everything in one hit. The bosses are no exception. Which I think is kind of amusing. I don't think I've ever actually fought that boss the way it's supposed to be fought when I found out that that was there. Alright, so now we're on to episode 3. This is where the game starts to get really hard. Take my shortcut here. The main gimmick of episode 3 is that it introduces robots. Now this level in particular is really annoying because in some of these hallways you get Triad enforcers, and how many of them spawn at a time is totally random. And, oh shoot, that's bad. That's not a big deal, actually. There's porridge right here. So hopefully we don't get a lot. That is unfortunately very unlikely, though. Let's see, I'm gonna go through here. And you absolutely have to kill them because they are in the way and you cannot maneuver around them. That one always spawns there. Alright, so we got lucky at the end. Normally, we would have to kill at least one extra Triad Enforcer with our machine gun, and that takes a lot longer. Luckily, we didn't have to lose time to that, which is nice. Not common, like I said, which is good. Now we're going to try and get through most of this level with God mode. But we also have this really obnoxiously long hallway. I have no idea why they even bothered making this hallway as long as it is. But the main reason we have God mode is just to avoid taking damage. This isn't a very risky level, especially if you have the machine gun, because it stun locks the Triad Enforcers, but any chance we can get it, we should get God mode. So we're gonna go through this hallway once again. Alright. We unfortunately did not beat the spinning blade. That's unfortunate, but it's not that much of a time loss to it. Alright, when we made a good cycle on this wall, too. We have to wait for this wall normally, but we got it as it was at the tail end of its cycle, which is great. I don't know if that's random or if it's actually on a timer. It's hard to tell, but... let's get through here. Alright, down and over is another level where the beginning is significantly worse than the ending. Because if I get a lot of really annoying enemies, this gives me a very high chance of dying. But this is pretty tame compared to what you can get. So we're gonna have God mode for most of this level. Actually, I'm pretty sure we finish the level in God mode if we go fast enough. And we don't get elevator music, of course. So yeah, the main thing that makes episode 3 so difficult is not even the fact that they introduce new enemies, it's the fact that there's so many levels where there's a lot of things that just kill you quickly. Whether it be a lot of areas where there's a ton of enemies, or a lot of areas where there's a bunch of traps and firewalls. The robots themselves are, you know, dangerous, but they're really not as big of a threat as you'd think. There's one robot in particular that we will only encounter once. That's a problem, but I'll explain that when we actually get there. Alright, so we made good time here. We want to get to this room before God mode runs out, because if we fire a fireball as God mode, it can kill us just as fast as it kills every other enemy. And this is dead in 5 seconds. This level is not too bad. There's like 1 or 2 sections that can be a little bit dicey. Hopefully we don't have to worry about that, though. But we absolutely have to kill those Triad high guards there. Because if they get in the way when we're pushing that pillar, it will actually make the pillar get stuck. And you can't move it again. Alright, and this is the one enemy I was talking about. You're not going to visibly see him. Thank goodness, because he's devastating. That's the Ballista Craft. The Ballista Craft is the only enemy in this game that can't die. And he fires, like, a wave of missiles at you that juggle you, so you gotta be careful. Alright, this level's kind of cool, but it also has the most difficult trick in the... or difficult skip in the game. There's... you know, this is a level where enemy RNG is more based on what they do rather than who spawns, mainly for a couple of small sections. Like here I got pretty lucky that only one enemy spawned here. We are going out of our way to get this key over here. I did touch a touch plate to move a movable pillar to get to this. Technically you could rocket jump over it, but I don't want to risk it because it would put my health pretty low. And I got really forgiving enemy RNG there. Normally like 3 or 4 enemies will be in that hallway, but I got very lucky. Did I get that? Yes, I did. Okay. Uh-oh. That's not good. I ran right into that. That's a robot, by the way. They're not that big of a deal. That's a really bad glitch that can happen, by the way. Well-programmed game. So, I broke free from my net in the middle of a heads-up display switch happening, and that caused me to get stuck with the knife. And if that happens, I am stuck like that. I cannot switch my weapon, and I basically can't do anything. So basically, it's game over at that point. That was a really inconvenient glitch to happen. That doesn't happen often, but I guess that's good that it happens because it's an example of what could possibly happen. But I did just lose a lot of time because of it. So I'll make sure to save a little more this time. Matter of fact, I will save once I get through this door. Just in case that happens again. But that is not a conventional way for a net to ruin the game. Alright, my health is very low. This was bad. I did not handle those enemies well at all. Hopefully from one of these barrels I get some priest porridge. I did, that's so lucky, holy cow. Those barrels will sometimes give you items when you blow them up, sometimes. Which is kind of cool. Alright, so coming up here is a room where we're going to have to, technically we're supposed to hit a bunch of switches to move pillars to get to a key, but we're gonna do this a little differently. First things first, I need to clear out this entire room of enemies, because this trick I'm going to do requires me to rocket jump twice, and that puts Lorelei's health really low, because like I said, she does have the lowest health pool in the game, and rocket jumps literally don't want to work. Alright, so I gotta do this again. We're gonna do it again, and I don't save here because I don't know how my health is gonna look or what enemies are gonna be around, if there are any at all. But yeah, by rocket jumping over those pillars, we get the key and effectively skip that entire room. It's a really, really nice skip because it does save quite a bit of time, but it also is very risky and very hard to pull off. Because if you miss any bit of that rocket jump, you have to do the entire thing over again because you get stuck and you can't get out. So that's a little bit scary. Alright, this is the Angry Quilt. This level's not too bad. This is where the second random item farm is gonna happen. But this time we want to get dog mode when we do it. As you can see, there's just a bunch of firewalls. These do a lot of damage, like I mentioned, so you want to be careful. Alright. Let's get through here. These are all random enemies. Nothing spawned here, that's good. So we're gonna save here. Hopefully this doesn't take long. That's not what I want. Close, though. That's definitely not what I want. That's Elasto mode. That's a very, very bad item. Ugh. Alright, that took a while. That's just an example of how long this could potentially take. Normally, it doesn't take it will never take too much longer than that. So usually you'll get it within a few tries. But it is still somewhat luck dependent, so I don't know if it's truly luck dependent. It's hard to tell. I have not been able to fully test it. But it can still take some time. It's not something you can consistently get. I'm going to also kill this Triad Enforcer so he's not a problem when I get back from the next room. That was slow. I was trying to jump on his head because that does more damage, but whatever. As long as I don't get elevator music, I'm fine. But the reason we want dog mode is not only for getting through that easy without taking damage, but so we can jump straight here and avoid a little maze. so we can get to this key. There we go, we got out of there. Alright, that wasn't too bad. Alright. Always equip the machine gun when you get to this elevator. You do not want to accidentally fire a bazooka at point-blank range. That's not fun. Alright, this is the last little gauntlet of this level, which is this upcoming area here. Behind this door could be good or bad enemy spawns. This is pretty tame. If you get a Triad Enforcer or High Guards anywhere, it can be rough. And those traps are also random and they can often get you stuck and killed, so you do have to be very careful. And of course, we go from one really dangerous section to the next with moving walls. The level is just full of things that can kill you very fast. I actually got really good enemy spawns there. And the last section of this level is very, very, very dicey, depending on what enemy spawns you get and how enemies decide to behave. So this is definitely one of those levels where potential pace can get lost purely through bad circumstances. Alright, I'm gonna grab this bazooka, run through here. I want to get this bulletproof armor. It's gonna make getting through parts of this level really easy. But not through this section. There's robots. There's 3 of them. We do have to kill them so they don't kill us. This next set of hallways is really where the enemy RNG can get annoying, because you can get a lot of potentially different scenarios here. And it's really hard to know what's gonna happen. So I do save a lot in this section because I don't want to die. Especially if I get enemy scenarios that I don't know how to deal with right off the bat. Alright, save here. This episode 3 has been weird because there's been a lot of good stuff, but also a lot of really bad stuff. Also, this is the Heat Seeker. It's a missile launcher that locks onto the enemies. And the downside to it is it does a little less damage than the regular bazooka does. But that'll just mean you'll have to use 3 to kill a Triad Enforcer instead of 2. Alright, so now we're on to the 3rd boss of the game. This is the worst boss fight in the entire game, as well as possibly one of the most annoying parts of the entire game. This is Enemy. And the reason why Enemy is such an awful experience is because 1, he's very random, 2, he's very fast, and 3, he's very hard to hit because he's very small. I do have to be careful because my health is a bit low here. That's kind of awful, but we'll see what we can do here. So I pick up the firebomb because this does the most damage. I want to get as many of these onto enemy as I can. So I got a couple of them, that's okay. The main thing that makes enemy annoying is that he has an attack. His main attack is homing missiles. And once they lock onto you, good luck getting them off of you. They will hit you every time. Because they move super fast, like everything else enemy does. Alright, ready to go? Like I said. Oh, he does that little flurry too. The worst attack he can do is a little storm of fireballs that can kill you pretty much instantly. That was my fault. I died because I accidentally shot myself. Let's try this again. Alright, I missed a bunch of my shots because he swerved left and right. That can happen. Again, you really can't do anything about that if it happens. So now we just need to take turns shooting bazooka rounds at him wherever he is. The easiest way to deal with enemies is to try and get him to move in a straight line, but that's not something that always happens. Like I said, enemy is a very random boss, so it's very hard for that to happen. Alright, I'm gonna save here, because I've done a lot of damage to him already. That is the attack you never want to enemy to hit you with. That flurry of fireballs right there, it is not fun to get hit by. You will die. Oh, I wanted to pick that up, come on. So yeah, this boss fight can take time sometimes if you get a very unlucky enemy. But I, to this day, have found nothing that consistently works against an enemy. He's too random for his own good. Alright, sweet. That was a slow fight, unfortunately, but like I said, this game is full of randomness. There's not a whole lot I can do if that happens. Alright, so now we're going on to episode 4, the hardest part of the game. This introduces completely new enemies and some new weapons as well, which the main one is the Dark Staff. Dark Staff is a really good weapon. But the main enemy now is Death Monks. These are, well, they're monks, but the Death Monks are the ones that are big. They will just take health from you when you're standing next to them, and the other one is the Fire Monk, which will fire fireballs at you. This is going horribly. I need to play it safe. I need to pick up this health for this next run. The downside to the Dark Staff being so good is that it fires really slow. Or at the startup on its fire is really slow. Alright, so we're out of that one. But pretty much the risk of dying is very, very high on every level in episode 4. And here's our elevator music. The first instance of it, as I've said, you lose like 10 seconds when this happens. It's completely random. I've extensively tested this. You have like no way you control this, which is very unfortunate. You can just lose arbitrary time because of that. It's really stupid. So we've got dog mode now. We're going to utilize this for pretty much the first half of this level. Now I complain about like the RNG and stuff, but it does make this run very fun. Frustrating at times, but fun. Just gonna get through all this. This level is not terribly complicated. There's actually no, there is a skip coming. There is a couple skips in this level. But the first half of it's pretty straightforward. Alright, this is unfortunate. This is a thing that can happen. So if enemies are in, like, directly in the intersection where there are doors or windows, they cannot take damage from dog mode for some reason. It's bizarre and I don't know why it happens. There's a lot of really weird, glitchy things in this game that are not beneficial for the run. Okay, I'm gonna save here. So now we're in this room. I need to get a rocket launcher so that I can do another skip. Coming up here. I'm gonna take care of these over patrol first, because I don't want them to get in the way when I get back here. Uh-oh. Alright, so we're gonna do a little skip coming up here. I'm gonna save in case I mess it up. We just gotta rocket jump over these pillars to get to the silver key, refill our health, and do it again. Nice little skip right there. Grab this healing basin before we leave. So yeah, that's good. However, there's one more skip that's pretty big coming up here. This saves a lot of time. I'm gonna kill these enemies first. Pick up this bazooka. Uh-oh. I used a few more bazooka rounds there than I wanted to, but that's fine. We're gonna do a rocket jump right here and move one of the pillars at the very end to get straight to the end. Normally we have to hit a bunch of touchpads in that room to move all of them, but that jump allows us to avoid doing that entirely. Now this is the hardest level in the run, in my opinion, purely because I think this is the level with the most, single-handedly the most things that can kill you, and it's all in very enclosed spaces, so this level's very, very, very rough. Luckily there's, you know, firearm or business armor here, but that doesn't stop you from taking damage from the blades, nor does it stop you taking damage from a crusher, nor does it stop you from taking damage from hit scan enemies. So again, there is a lot that can kill you here, and I mean a lot.
Outsider.
But that first part's really like the tough part. We managed to get here with the large crystal monks, which give us a lot of our health back, which is nice. But the main reason I was upset about having to use bazooka rounds in that last level was because I want to use as much of them as I can at the end section of this level, because it can be very difficult. I'm actually going to save beforehand. I don't like this. This is very bad. Right. Actually, the ending with wow. I was kind of baffled because there wasn't a lot of enemies there. That doesn't normally happen. But yeah, that level can be grueling. So this is another level where we have to do an item farm. This time we want to get dog mode again. I'm gonna save here. I got hit by a fireball, that kind of sucks, but I did get dog mode first try, so that's this is RNG manipulation, you know, something you might be familiar with. Nah, I was just really lucky. Dog mode's great because it makes navigating through this level a lot easier. And a lot less risky, because like I've said before, dog mode, you don't take any damage. You'd have that perk if you got God mode, but dog mode also allows you to get around some of these traps a lot easier. So we have to pick up this key right here, on the complete other side of the room, to this one. Open up this and we're here. You can just jump over this. That's another thing that makes that convenient, is that you can just jump over the enemies. Alright, thank goodness we didn't get elevator music here. This is one of the worst places to get elevator music, because you want dog mode as long as you can through this level. Mainly so you can just do a little puppy jump over this instead of having to rocket jump. Oh, I'm stuck. Well. Alright, sweet. We got that switch. Now we're good to get to the exit. This level's not super hard, you just need to be able to move very quickly through some of the more dangerous parts. Wow, he's in the way. That doesn't really happen often. Alright, time for backfire. This level's a doozy. There's a lot of things, like, I don't even need to say it. You guys know this at this point. There's a lot of things that kill you in episode 4. This level is one of the biggest contenders for run killers for me whenever I'm on good pace, because there's a lot of fire monks and a lot of fireballs. In general, there's just a lot that is in very hard to maneuver places that kill you quickly. Like this, for example. Alright, so here we want to basically kill every death monk in this section with as much of the dark staff as we can. You won't have enough dark staff ammo to kill every one of them, and that's fine. You'll just waste a little time using the machine gun to kill them. But it's very important because they will get in the way if you don't. You will end up having to kill them anyways. This just prevents them from doing damage to you. As you can see, the machine gun, while it does stun lock, which is convenient, you do not kill enemies quickly at all. And this is a push wall right here that gets us right out of there to the other side, very convenient. And it also gives us a bazooka, also convenient. I went the wrong way there. That was just nothing more than a mistake. A very amateur mistake. Alright, so coming up here is one of the trickier sections, because there's 3 traps in a row we have to dodge, as well as potential enemies that can kill you. I'm actually going to save getting past that one, because running past that boulder is really hard. Alright, we made it through the difficult part. Sweet. The rest of this level's a cakewalk because you have dog mode. Alright, that was annoying. He was in a really inconvenient spot. So So we got the gold key, which takes us to the exit, which is coincidentally right here at the beginning. And there we go. We're out of here. So there's been a lot of really, really difficult levels in episode 4. This level is a nice change of pace. This level's not very long, and it's extremely simple. There is only one trick we have to do. It's not even a trick, it's a developer-intended thing, but it's a very tight window to do it to make this level super easy. So this may take some trial and error. Save a couple times just to set this up correctly. Alright. We need to activate that touch plate to activate those moving walls, so that we can come back here and get this as hidden as Besdis armor. And now we don't have to worry. Okay, can I hit this switch? Thank you. Now we don't ever have to worry about taking damage from the fire monks, which makes this room significantly easier. I'm actually happy I got that push wall first try. That usually takes me like 1 or 2 tries because it's very, very difficult. I've really mentioned this, but I've said Lorelei's the fastest, but she's also... the movement in this game is not very good. It's very archaic, and her speed on top of that makes it even worse. So now we're on the lair of El Oscuro, who is the main villain of this game. This isn't actually the last level, though. There's 2 more after this. But we will have a sort of boss fight with El Oscuro in this map. You'll see what I mean when I get there. Oh, there's another elevator music. All in all, this has not been a bad episode 4. The worst thing that's happened in this run is episode 3, but like I said, this is a game where that's kind of expected to happen. Considering I'm using like marathon safety strats, this is pretty cool. Alright, so we get the gold key and we kill those 2 enemies, because on the way back, if we don't, they'll get inside of the spike trap there. And if they're inside of that, they won't take any damage from my bullets, which is the only safe weapon to use against them at that close range. Alright, so we gotta get 1 more key now, which is this one right here. That's a really bad place for him to be. Oh my god, move! Holy cow, I can't control Lorelei. Alright. So I got the key, now we're just gonna go back this way, take the elevator again. And now we have the key to get to the room right across, which is right next to the gold key, which does not open this door. It's kind of an obnoxious design choice, in my opinion. Alright, so now we're going into this arena right here on this elevator, where we're going to quote-unquote fight El Oscuro. But it's not a real boss fight, and let me explain why. So in this arena, we have a bunch of enemies, we have a bunch of items, and we have El Oscuro himself, that guy right there. So the way El Oscuro works, in this current form that he's in, you cannot kill El Oscuro. Instead, what happens is he does a bunch of magic attacks, and anytime you do anytime you do an attack to him, he just gains energy back. So, instead of actually fighting on him, we have to wait him out and let him cast all his spells in order for the exit to this level to appear. It is the only way to get to the exit. You can't even rocket jump over to it. But he has quite the assortment of attacks he can do. You do not want to get hit by any of them, because they do a lot of damage. So we're going to constantly, throughout this section, be collecting his Besdis armor and health, so that we don't end up dying, because otherwise we waste a lot of time doing this over. So yeah, this is, like I said, just a really kind of a downtime. It is possible to die to this, I have done it before. But that was just because I was not paying attention to my armor. I've learned since then. Like I said, this game is Well, I haven't said it, but it's kind of been implied with how much stuff goes on in this game. This game is always a learning lesson. There's always something new and totally awful that can happen. It's up to you to learn how to deal with it. And we just have to wait for him to turn into a certain form. I like to call it his Caterpie form. Alright, and there it is. Alright, so now we're in the canyon chase. We're chasing his head through this canyon. So literally all this is, you're just running. That is all you do in this level. But this is what leads into the final level of the game. Yeah, there's not a whole lot goes on here. It's got cool music, you're just running, and that's it. Don't ever even have to worry about the enemies, because they're so not in the way that you never will ever have to worry about taking damage from them. Well, you also have asbestos armor, which helps, but that's more for the fire pillars, so I can just kind of run past them. And now we're in the darkness. This is the last level of the game, and where the last boss fight happens. The real last boss fight. So, for those of you who are not familiar with Rise of the Triad, there are two endings to this game. One of them is the bad ending, which we hopefully will not get. And the other one is the true ending of the game, which we have to do in order to finish the run, because if we do the bad ending, the game will just put us back at the beginning of this level and ask us to try again. So we do the best ending because it is technically the ending of the game. And in order to get the best ending, we need to kill all of these little larvas. These are El Oscuro's larvae. And it's very important we do not miss a single one, otherwise we do not get the good ending of the game. So I will be careful to make sure I get them all. And the worst part is you don't even have a kill counter to keep track of that. And I'm just going to wait here to get asbestos armor so I have it full going into this last section. We're going to fall here just a little bit to get Mercury mode. And this is very important because it may have looked like we got all of El Oscuro's larvae, but we did not. There is one more hidden room right here with a majority of the larvae hidden away right here. So we're going to be using the firebomb here to blow up as many as we can off the bat, as well as blow up some of those enemies. We didn't do nearly... God, that didn't do nearly as much damage as I thought it would. Now we're going to use the Excalibur, which is the first and only time we're going to use it is this level, which is unfortunate because it's awesome. As you can see, all you do is charge it up and you fire a wave of explosive baseballs. I cannot stress enough how cool the weapons in this game are. And how silly they are. Pick up that again. So the main strategy with this room is we want to kill as many of these as we can with the Excalibur and the firebombs. We actually cleared this room out pretty quickly, except for those two. Again, it's very important to make sure visually that all of these larvae are dead. And now we have to fight El Oscuro. And El Oscuro can only take damage when he's on top of these little fire pits. So what we want to do is hit him with the Excalibur. It does the most damage to him. And if we get this position correctly, it's possible to kill him in one hit. But that's very difficult. It's a little bit luck-based too. So we're just going to try and do as much damage as we can. And like I've mentioned before, oh my god, this is so bad. Whew, I gotta be careful. Alright, so I'm just gonna kill him with this. It's not ideal, but... I don't want to go back and get that. That wasn't a great fight, but like I said, if you position it correctly, you can theoretically kill him in one hit with the Excalibur. Even then, it does the most damage, so you want to use it, even if it's slow. But that was an average fight. It wasn't great, but he's dead now, and the time will come up once this cutscene, or once this level fades out, and it shows that Eliscuro is dead. There we go. So now normally we would wait and sit to make sure that we get the best ending. Because the bad ending that we get is if we don't kill all the larvae, the world gets destroyed 50 years later. And the game asks you to try again. So let's just double check to make sure we got it. Alright. Sweet. Slums Rise of the Triad. That level, or this run, sorry, I kind of just hiccuped. This run had some pretty bad RNG, but for the most part, this is about an average run would look like with the current run route and strats. Like I said, the worst thing that happened was episode 3. Episode 4 wasn't bad. I only really lost time to playing safe. But yeah, 54:28 for no reset's a pretty good time. Hopefully you guys like this run, and hopefully you guys consider this for SGDQ, because I think it's really cool. I think it has some unique elements to it, unlike other FPS games from this time. And on top of that, I did run Res of the Triad's remake last year, and quite literally, one of the most common things people said about the run is that they had hoped it was the original rather than the remake, so keep that in mind.